Welcome to the Vital Mentality Podcast. I'm your host, Angel Munro. We're talking all things health and wellness, and we're looking at ways to live a vital life. Short disclaimer, this is not intended as medical advice. This is just for general purposes only. So this week, we're going to have a look at Ozempic. This is a blockbuster drug. It became a blockbuster drug since it went off label, and meaning initially it was just used for diabetes type 2. And it is now sold off-label as a weight loss drug. It is very easy to get. We have a shortage of it in Australia at the moment because it is so popular. And lots of people have been weighing in on Ozempic. There are some side effects and long-term effects from taking this drug. But what gets left out of the conversation often, even with natural and functional medical practitioners, influencers, no one seems to lead with the fact that there have been quite a number of deaths from this drug, and it is a real risk. So that is going to be the first thing that we'll be talking about, and just the other kind of important factors like environmental, emotional, psychospiritual factors to weight loss and weight gain that need to be addressed that Ozempic sidesteps. So I'll be looking at all of that today. I just want to, before I get right into it, I just want to start off by saying that there is absolutely no judgment in this from me. If anyone knows me for a long time, they know I struggled with my weight most of my life. It's probably been the last 9 years or so where I have been at a stable weight. I mean, it goes up and down a few kilos here and there, but I went up and down 5 dress sizes a few times, probably since I was a teenager. So early teens, I would say. So weight loss, weight gain is no stranger to me. I understand why someone would want to take a drug like this when, sometimes you feel like you don't understand your body, you don't know why it is the way it is, you can't work out how to, be the weight that you want, and feeling like you don't have control over your body can be really isolating, and it can be tough. So I get it. Anyway, I just wanted to say that because the point of me looking at this is I want people to be well for a long time. And I don't think that this drug delivers that. So let's have a look at what we know so far. The other thing is that because it's new on the market for weight loss, it means that there's not a whole lot of long-term data. So I think in terms of what the effects will be of, masses amount of people taking this drug, I don't think we'll know for a while, but there is some pretty clear info that we can go off so far. We're talking about Ozempic. It's a GLP-1 receptor agonist. There's other drugs like Wegovy and Mounjaro are the other two that I know of that do the same thing. So I'm talking about all of those drugs that are in that class. And so one of the issues with Ozempic and those drugs, it comes in a syringe which has multiple doses. You have to inject it into you, and lots of people, it's been super common for people to overdose. So that worldwide there's been an increase in calls to emergency for poison and toxicity because people are overdosing on this drug. Like I say, easy to get multiple doses in one, and that can cause pancreatic damage and kidney damage, and sometimes irreversible kidney damage. So that's one of the real risks of this. Like I said, I wanted to talk about the risk of death first, because I think that should be the lead. And the BMJ the British Medical Journal just brought out this year, I put the link in the show notes, that there was 82 related deaths in the UK related to all of those drugs, not just Ozempic. And like I said, it is prescribed for type 2 diabetes and also weight loss. So out of those 82 deaths, 60 were from type 2 diabetes. And just as a guess, I would say that that's because of polypharmacy, so being on interacting with other medications, why the numbers possibly a bit higher, but possibly because there's already pancreatic damage. There could be a few different things, but still there is still 20 of this is just in the UK, 20 deaths just from people taking it from weight loss, so possibly with no other health issues going on. That's a really big deal. If it was if there was a herb or another kind of natural supplement that people were taking that were causing deaths, even one death, it would be pulled off the shelves immediately. I think we have this weird thing when it comes to Western medicine where we accept deaths. I've spoke about this in more detail. I'll put the link in the show notes to my podcast, Who is Responsible for Your Health? And in the States and other Western countries, similar kind of stats, changes a little bit year to year, but third leading cause of death in America is usually reserved for medical error. So, I think it's a weird paradox where we wouldn't accept those number of deaths from any other factor, but from Western medicine, I think there's this idea that Western medicine saves lives and exists for the greater good. So a few deaths on the wayside doesn't matter. I'm not saying, I think that it can definitely save lives in emergency situations, but in non-emergency situations, it causes, the evidence is pretty clear that it causes a lot of deaths. And it's odd that we take it, we shrug our shoulders at it. Anyway, my 2 cents about that. So yes, it can cause death. So the drug works to mimic a hormone that makes you feel that you're full, and this hormone works in the pancreas, which is why you see a lot of pancreatitis. You also see, there's kind of other like smaller adverse reactions like dizziness, headaches, vomiting, not so small, I guess, abdominal pain, gastritis, nausea, diarrhea, flatulence. There's also liver damage that you can get, like I said, pancreatic damage, kidney damage, hypoglycemia, especially when it's with other drugs, which I think is probably, like I said before, why you see the deaths increase slightly when people are taking it for type 2 diabetes. But again, just to be clear, deaths for both classes, whether it's for weight loss or whether it's for diabetes. So in terms, I don't know if I saw that. No, I didn't say that. There is a risk, long-term risk, thyroid tumors. So now I'll get into some of the more long-term problems. So that was more acute, but long-term problems with the pancreas, with the gallbladder, thyroid tumors, muscle loss is a really big one. And because your metabolism requires muscle, and we also need it, as you get older. If you have muscle loss, it reduces your quality of life, it increases the risk of fracture, and it more increases in fracture than chance of shortened lifespan. So this really means that you might have weight loss and you might feel better, and carrying less weight around, yes, it has other health benefits for sure. But if you're losing muscle and also bone, the chance of having a shortened lifespan by quite a lot is high. And, like I was saying before, you want to look good for a long time. You want to feel good for a long time, not just for a short time. And the other problem with Ozempic, and this is clear in the literature, is that when people stop taking it, the weight comes back on. So this isn't a long-term solution. And the longer you're on something like this, the longer the chance of cancer and causing damage to your other organs, like your gallbladder, your liver, your pancreas, your kidneys, and losing muscle and bone. So, yeah, it's really, and it doesn't actually fix anything, because as soon as you get off it, you're putting the weight back on again. So to me, the benefits are very, very minute, and they're fleeting, and you end up in a worse position than when you started. Not only is, if you do stop, not only is the weight come back on, but you've potentially caused damage to systemic damage, basically, if you're counting all of those things. So what is Ozempic missing, apart from what I've just said? I'll talk about myself again for a little bit. I have always eaten well. I've always been a food snob. I got brought up on eating well, and so I've always wanted to eat healthy food. I've just been like that pretty much my whole life. But I overate. You can overeat healthy food. And I think because I ate well and I saw other people eating junk food, I was always, this little victim kind of voice, like, why can't I just easily be skinny all the time when other people eat shit and I eat well? But I ate more than I should all the time. It went up. And then I would be disordered about it and eat not enough. It took me such a long time to establish how much I should be eating and when I should be eating it. And rather than addressing that, I really had a victim mindset about it. And the other thing is that I was not an athletic child at all. I never did any sports. And when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, my extracurricular activity was partying, not moving my body. And I never established, again, what it was to actually move my body properly. And I think a third factor to that is that I'm also very prone to being susceptible to toxins. And the body, in all of its wisdom, when there is too much toxicity in the body, it sequesters it as fat. And so people that are like this generally need to move more, because you'll see people who are thin and never exercise and eat whatever they want. It's not a big deal. And I think that that's definitely a factor, that some people really, most people, in my opinion, need to exercise. Like I said, maybe someone can get away with it for a certain amount of time, but we're talking about living well, looking good, feeling good way into our twilight years. And this requires regular exercise. There's no way around it. And it should be, for most people, it should be most days, the odd day off, but most days people should be exercising. And it should be high intensity. You need to break a sweat, and maybe a couple of, maybe you got 3 or 4 days high intensity breaking a sweat, and a couple of the other days might be a little bit more gentle. But back to me, in the past, sometimes I'd do a few walks a week and maybe a swim in a chlorinated pool, and then I would think that I was exercising a lot, but it wasn't. And the psycho-emotional, spiritual kind of facet of this is, if you think about archetypes, we all consist of multiple archetypes, including the mother, the father, and the child, and the wounded child. And I know for me, I had to bring in the parent to say that I had to be disciplined every day. Like, I had to accept that I need to be disciplined every day to be healthy and happy, and as a sign of love to myself, because as the inner child or the wounded child may want to eat food all day and sit around and not do things or play video games and distract and indulge, but it's the parent that comes in with love that says, you need to clean your room, you need to eat your food, you need to get up and go outside and run around. And I think that I'm not saying that this is the case for everyone, but I think it's the case for a lot of people. I don't see many people who exercise, including high intensity exercise, and eat the appropriate amount of food every day, not be at a healthy weight range. And there might be a couple of other factors that could be where they get out of balance a bit, for sure. But people being really overweight, no. If you're moving your body and you're getting outside and you're eating the appropriate amount of food, and you are being conscious about toxins and a few other things, which I'll talk about in a minute, there's generally not a problem. So yeah, this kind of factor about being a parent, sometimes I walk around the house, there might be some, like a sock on the floor, or I don't know, something, and I'll leave it there for a couple of days, and I realize I don't have a parent who's going to pick that up for me. I'm the parent. I have to pick up the dirty sock. And I think that it applies here. If no drug can replace the love and structure and discipline that is required to be the best version of yourself. No drug can replace that. That's something that has to happen internally. And it is incredibly difficult to talk anyone into that. That's something that has to click inside of you. And I don't know what the magic bullet is for making that click happen. But this is about self-responsibility. And it has to come from within. Sometimes people can think that they're eating well, but they're not eating well. There's a lot of trickery that happens in marketing, and lots of food that's sold as low fat, high protein food that has ingredients like seed oils and other additives that wreak havoc on your metabolism, wreak havoc on your hormonal production. And I've seen people who have been eating well and exercising and who have had weight fluctuations that they shouldn't have had, but it is because they weren't reading their labels properly, and they were accepting this food that was just sold to them as being healthy, and they weren't actually turning the label around and looking to see what was in it. And again, this comes into the parent. This comes into the parental archetype. There's no one else who's going to turn that label around for you and check that there's something in there that's actually going to be doing you a disservice. That is you. And yeah, I can't stress this enough. We have to bring in that internal parent. There's a doctor, Kelly Brogan, she says the only disease is victim mentality. And I think there's absolutely truth in that. And it definitely comes into this equation of handing your responsibility over constantly and not taking it back. We've got to reclaim it if we want to be well. My mum is 75, and we exercise together. We do this walk near her place, which is quite challenging, and she's at the same level as me, who 28 years younger, and exercise a lot and eat well. And my 75-year-old mother is the same, and it's because she looks after herself, she eats well, she exercises, heart weights and aerobic exercise. And I know other people that are that age that couldn't walk around the block with me, let alone do the same walks that we do together. And I want to be doing that when I'm that age, and most people who get to that age cannot. I'm lucky enough to already have grandchildren, and I can throw them around and run around with them and play with them for hours, and because I'm physically fit. And it is possible to us. I want to be able to do that with my great grandchildren as well. So this is the other point that Ozempic is missing. It's so short-sighted to get this quick fix. And I absolutely, like I said before, I understand the allure of that. Of course we want a quick fix, but there isn't one that will last you for your whole life, which is the point. Which is why this show is called Vital Mentality. So factors to think about: you need morning light, and not from screens, not from the lights in your house. It needs to be outside on your bare eyes, not through glasses. As the sun is rising, our eyes are an endocrine organ, and our fat cells are an endocrine organ, meaning they regulate our hormones and our metabolism. So our eyes get the information from outside as the sun is rising in the morning for the first couple of hours, and it stimulates all of our hormones for the day. So if we are not getting that, where we don't have the correct cascade of hormones to regulate our metabolism. So that is really important. Our light environment has become really toxic. It's gotten worse in the last 10 years. And it's one of the best things you could be doing for your metabolism, going outside first thing. You need a full night's sleep. Again, it's people who do shift work or don't get enough sleep, their ability to lose weight becomes a lot harder. For some people who are really sensitive to their light environment, they may even need red lights at night, which you can buy easily, or candlelight. We need that infrared, which we don't get from the blue lights that are in our house and our screens and everything. Absolutely need to be breaking a sweat via exercise most days. Saunas a couple of times a week can help to release toxins if you're sensitive in that way. Like I said, our fat cells actually work as an endocrine organ. The more fat we have, it means our hormonal system gets disrupted. And actually for me, was when I learned that was a real big trigger for me to get to a point where I was exercising every day and being conscientious about how much I was eating at each meal. Was when I realized that our fat cells are an endocrine organ. I thought, wow, because I've always been interested. I've been working in health for my whole adult life. And I would never walk around with a swollen lung or a swollen liver, but I was walking around with a swollen endocrine system. I didn't realize. So, yeah. So making sure that you're doing things to release the toxins out of the fat cells, which is exercising high intensity is the best way to get lipolysis. So fat burning. Sauna a couple of times a day, looking at toxins. So I'm talking about through drinking water, heavy metals, EMFs from phones and screens and things, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. If you want to know more, I go into this in great detail in my podcast, which was Calorie Counting. Now I can't remember the title, but I'll put it in the show notes. Weight Management Beyond Calorie Counting and something else. Anyway, it'll be in the show notes. And I go into this in great detail. Not being stressed is a really big deal. It's more cortisol dysregulates your metabolism, weight gain. That's the short version. Protein. I think I want to do a series of what my pet peeves are, but protein powders, men can kind of get away with taking protein powders more than women can, but protein powder is not protein. Protein, yes, is important for muscle. The more muscle you have, the better your metabolism works, but it needs to be from food. Protein powders, they use chemical extractions to make them. And then because they've separated from fat, from the whole, because protein's usually attached to fat when it comes in natural sources, women, especially, of the lack of fat and the lack of vitamin A, ends up leading to hormonal dysregulation. So yes, eat protein, but eat it from food. And it is not that hard to do. I did a little video on my Instagram, a reel about, a bit of Reggiano Parmesan. A slice of that can be the same amount of protein as some protein bars. So, just get it from food, please. Definitely, like I said, not eating too much you can eat well and still put on weight if you're not careful about how much you're eating. And that varies from person to person, but I know for sure I was often getting seconds and things of meals rather than just having my one meal, snacking without thinking about it. Mindless snacking is a bad idea. I think people really need to think about how much food they're eating. And eating within the daylight window. So in winter, you're probably going to eat less. Nature provides less carbohydrates. There's not fruits and grains and things around. So it's more fats, animal products in winter. And it's a smaller eating window. So you really should be eating around light time, daytime. And, in winter, the sun goes down at 5 where I am anyway. So it means that you really do need a fast that's longer than 12 hours. For a lot of people, 16 hours is a good fast. And so, you finish eating dinner and no snacking later on at night. And your diet should change due to the season, because eating, like high carbohydrate diets in winter can mess up your metabolism. Seasonal eating is a massive factor. I think I've covered everything. If you need to work with this one-on-one, please contact me. I do Zoom so we can organize sessions wherever you are. I've also got a good workshop called the Aligned Diet, which demystifies, what good and bad food is. I recommend that. And thanks for listening as always. Until next time.